Shishi Gonitai Ke, Srila Prabhupada Ke, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ke, Shri Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ke, Shishi Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the Dismal devotees. All glories to the Dismal devotees. All glories to the Dismal devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
It's very nice to see so many devotees gathered so early in the morning. As we had mentioned yesterday about Maharaj's punctuality, and you see now Maharaj is already here with us, and we are very honored again to have Maharaj this morning. Yesterday Maharaj brought us through the pastimes of Advaita Acharya, and today Maharaj will continue to speak, Haribol. Maharaj will continue to speak on the glories of Nityananda Prabhu. As we all know, this Friday we will be celebrating the appearance day of Nityananda Prabhu. So with hearing Maharaj's class, we will then set the mood for the course of this week. Hare Krishna.
Nice to be with you again, and we have Bengalis here. Apni Bengali. Acha. You understand English okay though? Alpa? Alpa. Oi. That's intelligent. Yes. Tikache. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhare Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gauranga, Jai Gauranga, Jai Gauranga, Jai Gauranga. Jai Gauranga, Jai Gauranga, Jai Gauranga, Jai Gauranga. Javshtavad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Status His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON Samstagacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Grantaraj Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki. Shishigonitai Ki. Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki. Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki. Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki. Go Premanande. All glories to their Selma devotees. All glories to their Selma devotees. All glories to their Selma devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So devotees, we are having, like you might say, a warm-up session, something like that, just to tune us in to Lord Nityananda and his glories and wonderful, wonderful nature. Just to get us focused and ready for Friday, which is his actual appearance day, and I'm sure there'll be major program here. Here? Probably here, right here. Yes, that's really nice. Okay, so first of all, well, first point, there are many points, but first point is to understand, appreciate, shall we say, start appreciating Lord Nityananda a little more in depth. We need to appreciate Lord Balaram, because Balaram Hailo Nitai, this is what is said, that Lord Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nahe Anya, Balaram Hailo Nitai, that as Lord Chaitanya is none other than the combined form of Radha and Krishna, so Lord Balaram has appeared as Lord Nityananda. And in so many ways, basically, Lord Nityananda is in the mood of Lord Balaram. So, to begin this part of the whole process of appreciating, trying to appreciate Lord Nityananda, I want to read from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 5, beginning with verse 149. Adi Leela 5, 149. And actually read, there's several verses actually. I'll just read them. Nityananda Swarupa Purave Haya Lakshmana Lagu brata hayakare Ramira Sevana. Lord Nityananda Swarup formally appeared as Lakshman and served Lord Ramachandra as his younger brother. Right. Yes, so we can begin from that point. Who is Lord Nityananda? Well, previously he was Lakshman, and he was the Lagu Brata, the younger brother. And we just carry on for some more verses. Ramira Charitra Sabha Dukera Karana Swatantra Lilaya Duka Sahena Lakshmana. The activities of Lord Ram were full of suffering, but Lakshman, of his own accord, tolerated that suffering. Yeah. Dukera Karana. Swatantra Lilaya Duka. Lots of duk. Lots of misery and suffering and difficulty. One of my godbrothers, before he was married to a young lady of sort of Russian or East European extraction of some sort, and she had a Russian, it's a common Russian first name, Tamara. Tamara, very common in Russia. And but devotees, you're all sitting down, that's good, fasten your seatbelts. Her family name, would you believe? You won't believe it. Some of you may not. Her family name was Duke. Hare Krishna. And I was present when he introduced her by first name and her family name to, they're actually Gujarati people, but they understood Hindi and Gujarati. They were fluent. And he said, yes, this is my wife, Tamara Duke. And it worked out like that because the marriage did not last long, unfortunately. Yes, so Duke. Watch out for the Dukes, for Duke. Okay, so we carry on. Nisheda karite nare yate chotabai monadari rahe Lakshman mane dukkha pai. As a younger brother, he could not stop Lord Ram from his resolution. And so he remained silent, although unhappy in his mind. Because you all know, I think you're all from the vast, great majority, the majority. You're all from Hindu-type backgrounds of one sort or another, and you would know that traditionally, it's a very traditional thing. The older brother has special status, and particularly in the absence of the father, it's very traditional. The older brother, oldest brother, becomes, sort of like the replacement father kind of thing. It's quite, at least I don't know about now. Now also? It's like that, okay. It's a very traditional thing. So in this case, the father, Dasarath, was no longer, and so Lord Ram was the oldest brother. And Lakshman was the Chotabai. He's the younger little brother. Chotabai. He's the little brother. And Lord Ram, as the older brother, Lord Ram was very, he was assertive, you could say. He really took that role. I am the older brother, and you are the younger brother. Right, you got it. Like that. So as the verse says, that as the younger brother, he couldn't stop Lord Ram from his resolution. Whenever Lord Ram made a decision, then Lakshman just had to say, yes, sir, sort of thing, basically. And he couldn't say, well, just hang on a minute. Just hold on there. So he just remained silent. Yes. And, there are a number of situations. There was the situation where Sita was kidnapped, and what's his name? Maricha came in the form of like a little, very special, very attractive kind of mystical little deer. And Mother Sita became attracted and wanted to have the deer as a pet. And so Lord Ram, as the noble husband, looking after his wife and facilitating her as far as possible, he agreed, right, I will catch the deer. But Lakshman said, just wait a minute. No, this deer, this is not an ordinary deer. This is like some magical creature, actually. So he said that I don't think you should try to catch that deer. But Ram asserted himself, and he went to get it. And anyway, I'm sure you all know the story that Maricha sort of led Ram away, and then he imitated the voice of Ram as if he was calling for Lakshman to come and help him. But it was just a big trick. And Lakshman, Sita, she's the wife of the older brother. So she told Lakshman, you got to go and help your brother. And Lakshman tried to resist, but he couldn't. And she even sort of insulted him badly by saying, oh, you want Ram to die so you can have me for yourself, which was about the furthest thing from Lakshman's mind. So he had to go, and then Ravana kidnapped Sita. And then when Lakshman got out there and there's Ram and Maricha's dead, and Lord Ram said, what are you doing here? You're meant to be with Sita. And they went back and Sita was gone. And Lord Ram chastised Lakshman. But Lakshman, he couldn't say anything, but he was thinking, listen, I knew it was a bad idea. I said you shouldn't go. And Lakshman thought, the problem is, I'm the younger brother. I should be the older brother. He's my older brother. He's just wonderful. But sometimes he makes these decisions. They're not the best. And then when Sita was rescued, and Ravana was killed and all of that, then Lord Ram said, right, we must test Sita to see if she's pure. We must build a fire. She must walk through it to prove her purity and chastity. And Lakshman said, no one doubts her purity. There's no need to do this. And anyway, who's going to build a fire for Sita to walk through? No one's going to do it. And Ram said, Lakshman, someone is going to do it, Lakshman. You are going to do it. And Lakshman became silent. He couldn't say anything because the older brother had spoken. And so he's now building the fire, very reluctantly, while thinking, no, what are we doing building this fire? This is just ridiculous. And again he thought, this is another wrong decision. Next time, I'm going to be the older brother. And I'll see things are done properly. And then the third time was when Ram wanted Sita to be exiled to the forest after the Dobiwala had criticized him. And so he told Lakshman, someone must take Sita to the forest and just leave her there. And Lakshman said, there's no need to do that. It's just some Dobiwala. What's a Dobiwala? Made some comments. There's no need. And who's going to take her into the forest? Who's going to agree? No one will agree to do that, and just leave her there. And Ram said, Lakshman, someone is going to do it, Lakshman. You are going to do it. And again, Chotabai. He couldn't say anything. He had to take her. And he said, listen, what are we going to do? Throw her off the chariot? Push her off the chariot? We can't lie to her and say that, doesn't the forest look nice? Wouldn't you like to get off the chariot and walk around and then just drive off and leave her? We can't do that. And Ram said, you can do that, Lakshman. Just let her get off and just drive off and leave her in the forest. And Lakshman thought, this is the third time a bad decision. In our next lives, I am going to be the older brother, and I will make the decisions. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita continues. Krishna avatare jeshta hailase vara karana Krishna ke karayala nana sukha asvadan. When Lord Krishna appeared, he, Lakshman, became his elder brother, Balaram, to serve him to his heart's content and make him enjoy all sorts of happiness. And that's what happened. Lakshman became Balaram, the elder brother, and he managed things generally better. Yes. He looked after Krishna. He really protected Krishna. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita, there's very nice description. Krishna and Balaram, cowherd boys, going out with the calves, the baby cows. And Lord Balaram is behind Krishna and watching to make sure that everything's okay and nothing happens to Krishna. Yes. So he was very responsible. Lord Balaram was very responsible about looking after his Chota Bhai, his little brother. Krishna was his little brother. Even when they appeared, first of all, Lord Balaram entered the womb of Devaki and spent some time there, but then after a while he was transferred to the womb of Rohini, who is really his mother. Actually, Devaki is not exactly his birth mother, so to speak. Yeah. Rohini is the mother of Lord Balaram. But Lord Balaram entered the womb of Devaki and stayed there for some time before going to the womb of Rohini. And so the question arises, why? Why did Balaram not just go straight to the womb of Rohini? What's the need? What is the need? He should just go straight to his mother's womb. But it's described, and actually Prabhupada mentions it in one of the purports there in the 10th canto at that particular point where Lord Balaram is transferred or is about to be transferred. And Prabhupada makes the point that Lord Balaram, as the older brother, wanting to look after the younger brother and make sure that everything's all right so his younger brother is happy and safe and comfortable, he went into the womb of Devaki to make sure everything was working properly, in the womb, so that Krishna would be comfortable and there would be nothing was malfunctioning within the womb. So he was really a very dutiful older brother, very protective and caring, whereas Lord Ram, we cannot criticize him, but he didn't have that sort of attitude as much as Lord Balaram did towards Krishna. Yeah. He was definitely more assertive, more senior, and really letting it be known that he's the older brother. So the next verse, and the last one that I'll read, Sri Chaitanya say Krishna, Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Purna Kare, Chaitanyera Kam. Lord Chaitanya is the same Lord Krishna, and Lord Nityananda is Lord Balaram. Lord Nityananda fulfills all of Lord Chaitanya's desires. So this is the first point. In order to understand the mood of Lord Nityananda in relation with Lord Chaitanya, we do need to get at least some idea of the mood of Lord Balaram. That Lord Nityananda also, with Lord Chaitanya, he was very protective, very caring, and really looking after Lord Chaitanya. You may remember, I assume you've all read, or most of you have read Chaitanya Charitamrita, and you'd remember the description of the Ratha Yatra in the Madhya Lila, chapter 13. Very vivid, dramatic description of the Rath Yatra and Lord Chaitanya's participation in the Rath Yatra. And Lord Chaitanya, at some point, he entered into in the mood of Radharani, in separation, he entered into a state of transcendental madness. And he was just dancing wildly, uncontrollably. And tears were coming from his eyes like water from a syringe. You know, particularly you get sometimes at holy time, you get these big syringes and they squirt the colored water and like that. And, you know, if it's just like a typical medical hypodermic syringe, you know, the doctors or the nurse injects you with something, then, you know, it's not so much. It squirts, but not so much. But the big ones, they're like hoses. And, yeah. So, Lord Chaitanya, his eyes were like that, like big syringes, like hoses. And all the devotees surrounding him as he danced in this just incredible, superhuman way, they all became saturated. Not just, you know, a little water, a little wet, but just saturated. I know what it's like in India so much in monsoon, but in Africa sometimes we have these tropical storms. And the rain, it's raining so hard. You run across a street, you run, and by the time you reach the other side, your clothes are completely wet. That's what it was like for those devotees, just saturated with the tears squirting from Lord Chaitanya's eyes. So then Lord Chaitanya carried on, but when he carried on, Lord Nityananda was walking behind him, if you remember the description, with his arms out like this to catch Lord Chaitanya, just in case he fell or he collapsed, because he had fallen and crashed to the ground, just crashed to the ground so hard that the planet shook, sort of like an earthquake type of experience. So, yeah, anyway, talking about Lord Nityananda and his mood, he was walking behind Lord Chaitanya with his arms outstretched, ready to catch him, means like the protective older brother. This is Lord Nityananda, this is Lord Balaram, and this is Lord Nityananda. So, for example, in Krishna Leela, it particularly comes out in the Kaliya Damana Leela. I'm sure you're all familiar with that pastime happened on Lord Balaram's birthday. Balaram Jayanti, yes. So Balaram did not go out herding the cows that day. He was at home with his mother having a birthday party. So then Krishna got captured by Kaliya, and one elderly man ran back and alerted everyone in the village. and they all came running out, and because Lord Balaram was regularly acting in very protective and very caring ways and making sure that Krishna was all right, then as they're running out, they were saying to each other, this would not have happened if Balaram had been there. Krishna would not have been caught by Kaliya. Balaram would have done something. Because Balaram's like that. You know, he is Lakshman. He's not another person. But people under different circumstances, the same person has different moods. So Lord Balaram, he's really in that mood, caring, protective, and, you know, it's described by different of our previous acharyas how Lord Balaram serves Krishna. Balaram, for example, is Krishna's palace. He is Krishna's clothes. All of Krishna's clothes, they're forms of Lord Balaram. He is Krishna's shoes. He is Krishna's chair. All these things are forms of Lord Balaram. He is Krishna's umbrella. And so many things. And, yeah, I mean, so many things. Really, so many things. And on top of all that, he is supporting Vaikuntha and Goloka Vrindavan. It's all sitting on his energy. He expands as Sankarshan, as Maha Sankarshan, to support Goloka Vrindavan, Vaikuntha, and then via Sankarshan or Maha Sankarshan, he expands as Mahavishnu, who expands as Garbhadakshay Vishnu and then Shiradakshay Vishnu. They're all expanded from Balaram in order to serve Krishna in different ways. And he expands, Balaram expands in all the rasas. He is Ananga Manjari, the little sister of Srimati Radharani in the conjugal rasa. And he himself is in parental rasa and friendly rasa. Yeah, so Srila Jiva Goswami says, there is practically nothing which Balaram does not do for Krishna. He's so much in that mood of serving and supporting and helping and facilitating Lord Krishna. And even, I'm sure you're all familiar, there's a famous pastime, little pastime, and a famous picture of little Lord Krishna as a child on one big banyan leaf. And little baby Krishna is lying on his back, sucking one of his big toes. You know that picture, right? Malam hai. I think everyone knows that picture. Yeah, the little Krishna lying there, sucking one big toe, big smile on his face. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that one devotee saw this and asked Krishna, why are you sucking your toe? And Krishna replied, the thing is, so many people say my lotus feet are very sweet, and I wanted to find out for myself. So now I'm sucking my toe, and I can confirm that my lotus feet are very sweet. and he floated away on that banyan leaf. Srila Jiva Goswami explains, it's in Bhakti Sandarbha. He explains that banyan leaf, that is Lord Balaram. It's Lord Balaram. Because there's practically nothing which he, not just that he's willing to do, there's practically nothing which he does not do for Krishna. And Lord Nityananda is Lord Balaram. And he has exactly the same mood. And so he's always protecting. Lord Chaitanya, he's always there. I mean, not always actually, but so many times he's there because his mood is to facilitate, to help, to serve Lord Chaitanya. And even when it comes to Lord Chaitanya's mission, we all know Lord Chaitanya's mission is the Sankirtan movement to deliver the fallen conditioned souls. Lord Chaitanya's Patita Pavan. So Lord Nityananda, as the servant of Lord Chaitanya, there's a very interesting description by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur of the mood of Lord Nityananda in regards to the Sankirtan mission. He says that, well, you know, one of the symptoms of surrender, there are six symptoms of surrender. They're listed in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse 100. Easy to remember, 100. Lord Chaitanya is instructing Sanatana Goswami. Anyway, the six are listed out, you know, to do everything favorable for devotional service, not do anything unfavorable. And anyway, there's six of them. And one of them is to make the Lord's mission your mission in life. To accept the mission of the Lord as your mission. Actually, the way it's put there, I think, is to surrender everything. But anyway, elsewhere, Prabhupada puts it to accept the Lord's mission and make it your mission. So the thing about Lord Nityananda is that he made Lord Chaitanya's mission so much his mission that, well, it's said, there's a verse somewhere, I can't remember exactly. Full self-surrender. Prabhupada elsewhere translates as to make the Lord's mission your own mission. But there's a verse or two that demon who Lord Ram would kill, Lord Krishna might spare his life. And that demon who Lord Krishna might kill, Lord Chaitanya might spare his life. And the example there is Kamsa. Krishna killed Kamsa. Kamsa was in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes as the Chandkazi, and he was not nice. I mean, initially, Chandkazi, he was really not nice at all. He was kind of what you'd expect from a Kazi. He was really pretty aggressive Muslim authority figure. But when Lord Chaitanya confronted him. If you know the story of that big Harinam, so many of the devotees were saying that let's just kill him. We're going to kill him. Let's break his house to pieces and just tear him to pieces. But when they got there, Lord Chaitanya pacified them and spoke with the Qazi. And, you could say, well, he definitely partially converted him, there's no doubt. Because you go there now to the Chand Qazi's Samadhi, and you meet some of the descendants, and, they look like just regular Muslims, completely. But you say Hare Krishna to them, and they say Hare Krishna back. That is not typical of many Muslims, unfortunately, with all due respect. So, yes. So, Lord Krishna killed him when he was Kamsa. Lord Chaitanya spared his life. They were going to kill him, and they would have killed him. But Lord Chaitanya spared his life. But then it said that demon who Lord Chaitanya would kill, that means Jagai and Madai, particularly Madai. Lord Nityananda not only spared his life, but gave him Krishna Prema. So just see, that is the mission of Lord Chaitanya, to give the non-devotees and even the demons as much as possible, to give them Krishna Prema Pradayate. That's the mission of Lord Chaitanya. But it seems that Lord Nityananda was more deeply absorbed in the mood of the mission of Lord Chaitanya than Lord Chaitanya was absorbed in his own mood. If you get the idea. And, when Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that if you want to understand a person, who is this person? What is their character, their nature? What sort of person are they? Then you've got to understand their consciousness. It's not just what they look like. He's a big person, or he's this nationality, or this age, or that age. These are all considerations. But really, if you want to understand a person, who is this person? You've got to understand their personality, their mood in life. And Lord Chaitanya's mood in life is Patita Pavan, particularly the deliverer of the fallen. He lives for that. That's who he is. But Lord Nityananda had that mood, it appears, at least particularly with Jagai and Madai, he had that mood more than Lord Chaitanya had that mood, because Lord Chaitanya was just going to annihilate them. And Lord Chaitanya had to hold him back and beg him, please, don't do it. Let me have them. Give them to me, and I'll look after them. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur expresses this point in a very interesting way. He says that in this sense, we can see that Lord Nityananda was more one with Lord Chaitanya than Lord Chaitanya was one with himself, which sounds a bit sort of abstruse or, overly complicated, but it's kind of like that if you think about it. Because Lord Chaitanya, that's what he is. He's Patita Pavan. So yeah, Lord Nityananda, in that mood of the servant fulfilling, facilitating his brother, spiritual brother, Lord Chaitanya, he was so deeply, extremely deeply absorbed. So, anyway, because we have time, right? We can stop any time, but TK, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, okay. 11 o'clock, that's fine. So I want to read a little bit now about the birth of Lord Nityananda. This is a very nice description. It's from Bhakti Ratnakara. Hadai Pandit was very happy when he heard that his wife Padmavati was pregnant. She gave birth to a beautiful child on an auspicious day, and the religious-minded ladies of the village came to see the child and bless him. Each gave a different opinion of the child. One woman questioned whether the child was actually a boy or a doll made of golden butter, because Lord Nityananda is also golden. Yeah. Is he like a human little boy, or is he a doll made of golden butter? Another woman commented that she had never seen a child who could cool both the eyes and the heart. Every day, a crowd gathered at the house of Hadai Oja, and for the well-being of his son, Hadai Oja would distribute money to needy people and perform other types of charitable activities. Hadai Oja's son it's Nitai. Hadai Oja's son grew like the waxing moon and remained the center of pleasure for his parents. His mother loved him so much that she never put him down from her lap. At the time of his name-giving ceremony, someone suggested the name Ram, and someone else suggested the name Nityananda for the child. When he was old enough to crawl on the ground, people spontaneously called him Nitai and wanted to hold him on their laps. People were enchanted by his sweet smile and his tiny teeth, which looked like drops of milk. Nityananda became the center of life for the people of Ekachakra. Yeah, there's some very vivid descriptions, very beautiful descriptions, which we won't go through in detail, but, of his childhood. There's lengthy, detailed descriptions of his childhood, how he left, and what happened to Ekachakra, what happened to his parents when he left. It's really very dramatic. But let's just mention a little. When he was a child, Nitai, Lord Nityananda, he had a very specialty, like program of activities which he would do every day. He would gather all the other children and they would perform dramas of Krishna Leela. Every Leela of Krishna you ever heard of, and many you never heard of. It was just every day. That's what happened. So they did the birth of Krishna, being carried across the Yamuna. I'm sure many of you have been to Ekachakra. You know, there's this little waterway comes around. They call it the Yamuna. You know that, yeah. So they crossed the Yamuna, Vasudeva and Krishna, and then just all the different leelas of Krishna, and then so many leelas of Lord Ram, because he's Lakshman, and the adults, oftentimes the village would just stop. Everyone would stop what they're doing and just go to see what drama is Nitai organizing with our children today. Yeah. And they're just fascinated. And the people would ask themselves, and they would wonder, how does he know all these pastimes? He can't even read. How does he know them? Well, of course he knows them, because he's Balarama, he's Lakshman, so he knows the pastimes. The one pastime which there's the main description of, it's really very detailed description, is of when Lakshman was attacked by, what's his name? Indrajit, by Indrajit, with a sort of like a thunderbolt type weapon sort of thing. And Lakshman is knocked unconscious. Yeah. And so then Hanuman flies off to the Himalayas and brings back, is it Mount Gandamadana, is it? Huh? No, I know that's the herb. The mountain. What's the name of the mountain? I think it's Gandamadana. He carries the whole mountain back because he couldn't. They told him, look for it, it's like this, it's like that. Find that herb, it's growing on that mountain, and just bring the herb back. But he couldn't recognize it. So he just, to make things simple, brought the whole mountain back. And then they found the Sanjeevani herb on the mountain. So, but in that drama, Nitai, who is Nitai playing? Lakshman, of course. And the people are watching the drama and thinking, he plays Lakshman so amazingly, it's incredible. How does he know how Lakshman moves and thinks and feels? How does he know all of this? Little did they know that he is Lakshman. So then Lakshman is knocked unconscious, and Nitai was knocked to the ground. Yeah. And there he is, he's unconscious. And he had told the boys that when I'm knocked unconscious, don't panic. Just get Hanuman to go and get the herb and bring it back, and I'll be okay. I'll just remain unconscious like I'm unconscious until he gets back with the Sanjeevani herb. But they forgot that. And all the village people gathered. And they thought, what's happened to Nitai? Nitai, has he died? There were no symptoms of life. And then suddenly, and Hanuman had not figured out, now I need to go and get the herb. So, but then one of the adults said, I know what's going on. Hanuman, you got to go and get the herb. And the boy who's playing Hanuman is like, oh, that's right. And off he went, and he brought it back, and they put it under Lakshman, under Nitai's nose, and Nitai was fine. But the people were just about to die because they thought, Nitai has died. Yeah. So that was the main drama. I mean, there were so many dramas, but that's the one which is described in the most detail. But then when Nitai was 12, one sadhu came, traveling mendicant, and he's a Brahmin, traveling Brahmin, mendicant, sannyasi, and he wanted to stay for a while in the village. And Hadai Pandit, Hadai Oja, and his wife Padmavati, they're like leading Brahmins in the community. So when Brahmin people would come and they wanted a place to stay, they would generally stay with them. So that traveling mendicant stayed with them. And he was really nice, and they associated. It was just really wonderful experience. And at the end, when he was about to leave, that traveling mendicant said, you know, I have one request, just one thing I'd like from you. And Hadai Oja said, sure, just tell me what you want. It's yours. No problem. That's it. It's done. And the man said, you know, I am an older person. I'm on my own, traveling around. I need a young brahmachari assistant. Please give me Nitai. And Hadai Oja, of course, you know, is just completely overwhelming. But he couldn't do anything. He couldn't say anything. He couldn't refuse. So Nitai went with this traveling mendicant. And they say, the people there, they say that when the mendicant left, he left a deity with Padmavati, Lord Nityananda's mother. And that deity, it's a deity of Krishna. That deity is still there in the back. Usually you've got to ask them to see that deity. But that's what they say. So off went Lord Nityananda. And in Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's a whole chapter just about the pilgrimage of Lord Nityananda. It's really amazing. He went with that sannyasi for a while, then he left him, and he was traveling alone. And it describes many of the places he went to. He went all over, actually. He really went all over. And somewhere he met Madhavendra Puri, and there's a very nice description of their meeting and their associating together. When they met, they embraced. And, you know, as devotees, we embrace each other sometimes. And there's a sort of a saying or an idea that the depth of the relationship, when people embrace, the depth of their relationship is sort of shown, it's reflected in how long they embrace. So, if your relationship is not so deep, then it's just like, oh, Haribol, done. But if your relationship is deeper, then you embrace for a little while. As I recall, now I'd have to check it, I don't have it, the information right on hand. I think they embraced for 3 days. It was something like that. It was really a long time. Really a deep relationship. We can't and we shouldn't try to imitate. Yeah, but he ended up, Lord Nityananda ended up in Vrindavan. He stayed there. There are 2 places, if you're familiar with the Vrindavan Vraj Mandal area, there are 2 places, particularly main places associated with Lord Nityananda. One is not far from the Radha Damodar temple, just down the same road, a couple of 100 meters or something, and inside a bit. It's generally known as Sringavat, although it's also called Nityananda Vat. And there's the remains of a tree there that they say Lord Nityananda lived under for quite some time, because he was on pilgrimage for 16 years, something like that. It was a really major pilgrimage. So he lived there. Then there's another place at Radhakund where he also lived. And they say that when he left Vrindavan and finished his pilgrimage and returned to Navadvip to join Lord Chaitanya, that Lord Nityananda was staying there at Radhakund. Yeah, and there's a place there where he stayed. So yes, when Lord Chaitanya was about 16, he started his Sankirtan movement. And as soon as he started the Sankirtan movement, then Lord Nityananda left Vrindavan and went and joined him. And it's said that when he left Vrindavan, he roared. And that roar, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai, that roar was so loud it shook the universe. And their descriptions, the people all over heard this roar. And you know what it's like, I don't know, well, you may not know what it's like. In Superman comics, Haribol, Superman goes flying by and they say, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Superman. So it describes there, people are saying, what is it? Is it an earthquake? Is it a thunderbolt? No, it is Lord Nityananda, the Lord of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And you know, the Portuguese were in India at that time. They were in India, and there are records in some Portuguese historical documents, like their government documents. There's some records of Lord Chaitanya, actually. Yeah. And there may be, because this roar was so loud, it was heard around the entire globe. So there may be records that on a certain day, the Portuguese, because they would record things, they're into record keeping, that suddenly there was a huge roar and the planet shook and we didn't know what it was, but it was Lord Nityananda. So anyway, he went back, and we don't want to keep you all day, only till what, 11 o'clock, did you say? 12, lunchtime, okay. Anyway, just for a little while longer. But there's a really detailed description in Chaitanya Bhagavat of the meeting of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, and it is really amazing. Let me just say that. It's just amazing, their meeting. How Lord Chaitanya told the devotees that a great personality has come. Please go and find him. So Haridas Thakur and somebody went out to find, it was actually Lord Nityananda, but they couldn't find him. They searched everywhere, just everywhere in Navadvip. They couldn't find him. And they came back and they said, we searched everywhere, couldn't find him. Lord Chaitanya said, all right, come with me. And he took them to the house of Nandan Acharya, which is sort of still there. It's down the road in the direction of the Hula Ghat in Mayapur. And, it's quite nicely done. There's a house and the deities and the scene there. And so Lord Chaitanya took the devotees there, and they walked in, and there was Lord Nityananda. And Lord Chaitanya saw Lord Nityananda, and Lord Nityananda saw Lord Chaitanya, and they just became stunned, and they just stood there and just looked at each other for some time. Doesn't mean a few seconds, but means really for some time. And then they embraced. And again, it was one of these long embraces. They fell on the ground embracing. Anyway, maybe on Friday, you'll go through that in some detail. But I wanted just to touch on a couple of pastimes. There's one pastime, there's Jagai and Madai, of course, which I'm sure everybody is really well aware of, and even, after they're delivered, what happens, the reactions of the demigods, and then Madai apologizing to Lord Nityananda. It's really amazing, really, really amazing. We won't go through all of that, but there's another pastime of Lord Nityananda delivering a really degraded person, which you're probably familiar with, but anyway, let's go through it a bit. Even if you know the story, Srila Prabhupada said, repetition of a good thing is good. So, it's okay. Let's go through it. And, at the end of that pastime, the deliverance of the dacoit Brahmin, Vrindavan Das Thakur, Chaitanya Bhagavat, he gives two blessings at the end. But I thought I'd tell you those blessings at the beginning, so you may be a little inspired to listen carefully. So, anyone who hears these stories of Lord Nityananda will someday meet Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who, with an attentive heart, hears this pastime of the deliverance of the dacoits will someday see Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So just bear that in mind, but you got to listen attentively. I know what it's like. I'm sure there's some really nice prasadam. I shouldn't even mention it. And you may be thinking, like, what's for prasadam? But let's try and give our attention here. So Lord Nityananda, when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, Lord Nityananda was there, and he brought Lord Chaitanya back, we mentioned that last night, to associate with the Navadvip Vasis, kind of for one last time, at least for Mother Sachi, one last time. And then Lord Chaitanya went to Jagannath Puri, and Lord Nityananda went with him. So initially Lord Nityananda was there with Lord Chaitanya for some time. But after a while, Lord Chaitanya instructed Lord Nityananda, go back to Bengal and continue the Sankirtan movement. So he did. Lord Nityananda went back, and even just the story of how he went back, shoo, that's an amazing story. How he went back, him and his associates, because he has his own group of associates, like Gadadhar Das. It's one of his personal associates. Anyway, they went back and they restarted the Sankirtan movement because it was sort of not really happening so much after Lord Chaitanya left. So the Sankirtan movement was just booming. And Lord Nityananda, he was not only doing Sankirtan all over what is now West Bengal and Bangladesh, but also northern Orissa. I mean, it was big. He really started a big thing moving around. But what he'd do, he would establish namahatas in all the places where they went for Harinam. They would then establish a namahata. So he started the namahata movement at that time when he went back. So anyway, there's this one famous story, which I'm sure you're all quite familiar with, but let's just speak it anyway. And it begins in a really, you get the feel that this is really profound. It begins with Vrindavan Das Thakur saying, "Dear devotees, please listen to how Lord Nityananda delivered the most fallen." Because, we talk sometimes about most fallen. Sometimes we may even say, we are the most fallen. Some devotees sometimes say that. Oh, I'm the most fallen. To be actually the actual most fallen, there can only be one who is the most fallen. It's really an achievement. It's just not easy at all. And we are fallen. Let's be real about it. We are fallen. Even if you're brought up in a nice Hindu family, even if you're brought up as a vegetarian, But if you're in Singapore, it's not such a good sign, actually, in a certain sense. Don't panic, it's okay. It's all right, but yeah. So to be the most fallen, I mean, you got to really work at it. And this is what Vrindavan Das Thakur says. Please listen as I tell you how Lord Nityananda delivered the most fallen. So this man, he was a Brahmin, born in a Brahmin family, but he got into bad association. And, in India, it seems, at least going back a little while, if someone was a real criminal, he would be called in English a dacoit. It's what would you call it? An archaic word in English. Nobody's called a dacoit. It's Old English. But it sort of embodies the idea quite nicely. Like just, the most fallen, the actual most fallen. So this fellow, born in a Brahmin family, but he became degraded, incredibly degraded. At least Jagai and Madai, they had not offended devotees. They'd offended everybody else and killed people of all different types. But they hadn't really offended a devotee until Madai attacked Lord Nityananda. But this one, he had killed Brahmins, devotees, cows, and just, he was truly bizarre and just very, very extreme. And Lord Nityananda, he has now come back, and the Sankirtan movement is really going on in a big way. And Lord Nityananda, when he would go on Harinam, generally when we go on Harinam, it's nice if we're nicely dressed and, look, so people will think that, this is something nice and not just some strange people, unkempt people. So it's nice to look nice, be well presented. Lord Nityananda, he wore the most incredibly extravagant clothes, not just silk, but silk like embroidered with gold and of the highest quality, and jewelry around his neck. He wore kilos of gold. Our garland today is not so heavy. Yesterday it was heavier. And sometimes, on some occasions, we get over-garlanded. And you may have seen devotees disappear under the garlands, actually. And I can tell you from having done it a few times, they're really heavy. They weigh kilos. And you're trying to sit there, but the weight is sort of dragging you forward. He would wear kilos of gold. Kilos. And gold bangles, and all the way up his arms. And ankle bells, anklets. And, I don't know all the places where ladies wear things, but he was wearing them. and gems rubies and emeralds and diamonds and just, millions and millions of dollars worth, you could say, of jewelry and gold. Just millions. And this dacoit Brahmin, the dacoit Brahmin, he and his associates, they saw Lord Nityananda one day, and they couldn't believe it. I mean, nobody could believe it, actually, when they saw Lord Nityananda. It was just so completely incredible. But they couldn't believe it because they thought, if we rob him, take all his jewelry, all of us, we can retire for the rest of our lives. That'll be it. No need for more stealing and killing and all that. We can retire. So they made a plan. We are going to rob this Nityananda fellow. So they researched and they found out that Lord Nityananda was staying with Nandan Acharya, the same one who he had initially gone to stay with when he returned from Vrindavan. So, what they did, they had weapons, and they were just ready. They were hiding. There was a little garden, sort of open area in front of Nandanacharya's house. And then there were some trees. They were hiding behind the trees. And night came. So they're waiting for night. Night came. And they're waiting till maybe 10 o'clock, 11, late night when people are going to be asleep. And then they're going to go in and attack Lord Nityananda and steal everything. At least that's what they thought. So they're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting, and they all fell asleep. They all fell asleep. And finally, in the morning, some birds were singing and cocks were crowing, and they woke up. What happened? You fell asleep. And he says, oh, I suppose you stayed up the whole night, did you? No, it was the influence of Yoga Maya. Yes. Lord Nityananda. Yeah. So anyway, they decided, all right, somehow, we don't know what happened. What happened? What must have happened was, we did not worship Goddess Chandi sufficiently. She's very popular in West Bengal. Yeah, we must offer her some more meat and wine and, all this sort of stuff. Ganja. And she'll be happy with us, and then we'll be successful. So they did that. Couple of nights later, they did that. They did big Chandi Puja. And this time they were really ready. They went, it was already night. And what did they see? Guarding the house of Nandan Acharya were these big men, really big men, like even bigger than New York policemen. Have you had experience of New York policemen? I saw them in action once. Gee whiz. Grab this guy out of the car, hurl him over the bonnet of the car, smash him a few times. Anyway, these fellows were even bigger, like 3 meters tall, 3 meters wide. And they all had big tilak, real serious tilak all over their bodies. Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai. And they're all marching up and down, back and forth. And when they would meet in the middle, they would salute and say, Hari Bol! And the dacoits saw them and thought, what? Who is this? These are supermen. So they didn't try that night. Third time they came back, and everything was peaceful. Very nice, clear sky, full moon. And they thought, right, this is it. This is our chance. So they came running out with their weapons, running across the lawn, approaching the house. Suddenly, this clear full moon night, suddenly a massive storm just appeared out of just nowhere. And the rain was falling like in the Govardhan Leela, like pillars of water and hailstones this big and like this. And wind, hurricane, stage 10 hurricane. And, so they're just like wiped out. So some of them, what happened? Some of them fell into a ditch which was full of leeches. Leeches? They suck blood. Ooh, Krishna. Yeah. Leeches were sucking their blood. And there are mosquitoes this big. Have you seen real? You haven't seen Siberian mosquitoes, have you? Sure. They are man-eaters. Really. They're the biggest mosquitoes you ever saw in your life. And by I think this is a hint. I should finish. I could just finish, and you can find out on Lord Nityananda's appearance day. Anyway, I'll continue and conclude the pastime. So yeah, some of them fell into thorn trees. And, where I'm based in South Africa, we have thorn trees. I've not seen such trees here. They have thorns this long, and they're like metal. You can't break them off. They grow on trees, like big trees. You can't break them off, and they are like razor blades. And these dacoits fell into some trees like that, and if you just move, you're cut, and there's blood. And some of them fell into a rubbish pit, a rubbish hole, and their bones were broken. It was really, wow, devastation. So, anyway, the chief, the dacoit Brahmin, the leader, he suddenly got the realization that many people say that this Nitai is God. I think it's true. It must be true. Otherwise, how could this happen? It's just not possible. So he made up his mind, I'm going to surrender to him and become a devotee. So somehow he got out of whatever he was caught in, and he went running into the house. The devotees are there having kirtan, and they see this man. They all know, who is this man? He is just the worst, most dangerous killer of all. So the devotees are just in shock when the man comes running in. But then he threw himself at the feet of Lord Nityananda and just called out, "Save me, save me, save me." And the devotees couldn't understand what was going on. But then Lord Nityananda told him that, all right, if you become a devotee and give up your bad ways, I will accept you. So this dacoit Brahmin became a member of Lord Nityananda's group of devotees. Yeah. And Lord Nityananda gave him special mission, special service, that you are famous throughout Bengal amongst the dacoits. They all know you. They all respect you. They're all afraid of you because you are the biggest, meanest, most deadly dacoit of all. So I want you to go and visit all the dacoits in Bengal and make them devotees. So he did that. He would go. He knew where all the dacoits were. He would knock on the door. This dacoit would open the door, and there is the super dacoit. And you do what he says, otherwise you get into big trouble. And he would just tell them, he would repeat, the famous mantra of Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha. Chant Krishna, serve Krishna, follow Krishna's instructions. And they all became devotees. So they became a subgroup in Lord Nityananda's group. They became a subgroup of devotees, the dacoit Vaishnavas. Yeah. They were not dacoits any longer, though. But that's what they were called, the dacoit Vaishnavas. And they would have kirtan. And they would have kirtan unlike kirtan you have here, at least in my experience. Really sort of heavy kirtan, if you know what I mean. Boom, boom, boom. Kirtan. And so when people would hear them coming, this boom, 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 this heavy, heavy kirtan, everyone would know, it's the dacoit Vaishnavas. They're coming on Harinam. So like we read, anyone who hears this pastime with attention will certainly see Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda face to face. So there you go, devotees. Sorry to go over time, but don't worry. In Russia, I used to go to Russia when it was still possible or permissible. And in Russia, there's a saying, how does it go? Yes, hunger is the best chef. In other words, the more hungry you are, the better the prasadam tastes. So, that's the positive side, a positive side. Hare Krishna, Sri Nityananda Prabhu K.